Are you tired of high-pressure tactics?
No, I'm not going to sign that. It's too much.
At Community Auto Group, you'll find we have a straightforward approach.
If other dealers have made you uncomfortable, give Community a try. You'll enjoy your experience here and find a straightforward deal that's right for you, not high-pressure tactics.
Community Auto Group, straightforward deals from the straightforward dealer.
There's a lot to read here from the last two meetings, and by way of information for him, and a kind of a restatement for you, Joey, we tape record the proceedings, and then they are rendered to a written form by a transcriptionist. So we have a transcript copy in written form for the public.
With you directly. I've had some concerns that maybe you're not getting all the information that you need, that maybe some of the information that I have provided to individuals may have been misunderstood, because this is not an easy process, and if you don't know the ins and outs, it may not have been accurately reported back to you. Sadly, I think some of the information I have provided has been misrepresented, and so I want to make sure that you have all the information and all the answers directly from the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. I also want to establish a relationship so that you feel like if you have questions in the future, please ask me, because I'm going to be the best source of information with regard to what's going on at the Commission, what we can do for you, help you resolve any cases that you may have referred our way. So I want to establish that so that you feel comfortable giving me a call should questions arise, and I would encourage you all to do that.
Lean and efficiently, and it seems like if we just toss everything to paid staff and attorneys in Des Moines, we're actually increasing the tax burden and responsibility of the taxpayers, whereas this body is all volunteers sitting around this table, and we do the investigations to determine probable cause pro bono.
Well, the civil rights staff has 28 FTEs. We are funded by the state. And so there is no cost to a complainant in the city of Mason City for us to process their complaint.
I've got a chart here that says nearly 50% of your funds come from federal funding.
That's correct.
But the other is from state general funds.
That's right.
So that would be state taxpayers, Iowa State taxpayers' money, correct?
Well, we get that amount. It's the same. We get the same amount every year, whether we're up here doing work or not.
No, I know, but you're still utilizing taxpayer money, is what I'm saying.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Right.
But that means, you're already contributing to our budget without getting the benefit of our services. Okay. So, the investment has already been made by the taxpayers of the city of Mason City. They should get something back, and I can promise you that they're going to get an ideal process and product returned to them. So we have investigators that...
I guess I'm confused, because that would come up to 1,000 something if you totaled all these up.
Well, this chart is broken. You have to look at our annual report to get the number of complaints that we process each year. This is a breakdown of the work that we're doing, because some of the complaints we get are not jurisdictional or not timely. Some of the complaints are withdrawn before we ever process them. Many cases there's a right to sue letter requested. Those are cases we do screen even though a right to sue is requested. But this just shows the number of screening decisions we put out each month, the number of investigations that we complete each month, and the number of probable cause orders that are issued in any particular month.
Commissioner Devine and I did some research around the state and also around the country, and that's how we came up with this sheet that you were referencing earlier.
Right.
And some of the best working human rights commissions around the country seem to indicate that they usually have 1 in 10 coming out as probable cause, which kind of is reflective of what this commission's history has been over the last 10 years. And I'm concerned when I see your totals here of For example, 260 cases with 2 probable cause findings, that's 1% or less than 1%.
Right, and you're absolutely right. These FY11 numbers predate me. So one of the other areas that I was concerned about when I took over the commission was the historically low probable cause rate. If you look back at our annual report, I give you some historical figures, and the probable cause rate was abnormally low for the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. And I think that was there are a number of reasons for that. Part of the problem would be because they have such a big backlog that by the time they finally investigated cases, the cases were so old that it was difficult to get to a probable cause finding. You may have heard about the NAACP also raised concerns about the low probable cause finding. So that's an area that we have emphasized and improved on. And if you look at the second page, the FY13.
116 in December.
In December, we did not conduct any investigations. All of our workers, because December is a month where people take a lot of time off of work, we had all of our investigators do screening. So we didn't have any
So if we were to enter an agreement, we shouldn't count on service in December?
No, we were there working. We were doing screening decisions. So you can count on getting work from us at any point.
Okay.
That's never going to be an issue.
But
And if it were, I would strongly encourage you to call the governor's office.
Because
that would mean we would not be doing our job.
But then why was no probable cause and probable cause both zeros?
Because, again, we were not doing any investigations. All of our resources were into the screening for the month of December because half of our staff is gone in December. I mean, let's be honest.
Okay.
A lot of
So
individuals.
some staff was working, but you weren't doing
any investigations.
Right.
It's easier. Screening takes a day or two.
Okay.
Investigations can take a few weeks, and it's hard. Our witnesses are on vacation in December, and so it's hard to, and they don't want to schedule interviews because it's the 20th of December. They really don't want to sit down and focus on a case. To have signed the agreements and that we provide reimbursement for, because your situation is unique, and we have changed the agreement for FY13 so that you could still take advantage of the contract. Because normally what we say is you have to submit your complaints on a timely basis, and that's going to get you the highest reimbursement rate. Because of your situation and because it's changed so drastically in the last very short period of time, we have offered to give you the full reimbursement for any complaints that you send to us that were filed in this fiscal year, even if they're not within the 180 days, and you'll still get the highest reimbursement rate. So these are agreements that we send out each year. It varies year to year how many commissions participate, but it is a way for us to distribute a small amount of money, not a significant amount because we don't have a significant amount to distribute, but it helps local commissions, I think. So are there any questions that I could answer?
Is that a boilerplate agreement, or is there some room for negotiation if we saw something we didn't like in that agreement?
Because we want to have the same agreement for all commissions, there's not a lot of room for negotiations. Okay. Because we want to be fair, and if we negotiate a term with you, then we would have to provide it to all the local commissions. I
promise not to tell them.
Well, no, these are all public records, so that wouldn't get me anywhere. So, we try to keep them uniform so that everybody has the same opportunities.
Well, Commissioner Palmer's question is a great segue to my question then as well, because by way of information, the public has been contacting me as the acting chair, really vocally stating that they want to see the commission be retained and still exist in Mason City. And I think almost all the city council people and the mayor have assured me that they don't want to see this commission go away. So by way of the research I did, you say that that's a bit incorrect because they don't get a window into what you're doing. I don't quite understand how we can fulfill the expectation of the community to have a presence and for us to be looking out for the people of Mason City, but yet do you just the stock contract that you cannot negotiate on, as you just said.
Ground zero, and you can become anything you want to be. Now, just because you sign a local work share agreement does not mean you're obligated to send us every case you get. You get to decide. So if there's a case that you get that you feel strongly about and you want to investigate and do the fact finding here in Mason City, you should absolutely do that. I can't see any reason why you wouldn't. But if you have cases that you recognize we don't have the resources or the time to focus on, this gives you an avenue to get some reimbursement for those cases. And I'm here to assure you that the complainants within the Mason City area that file these complaints are going to get excellent service, and they're going to get a fair hearing and a competent hearing in the Civil Rights Commission, so that you can feel confident in referring those cases to us. But it's completely up to the commission, whatever you decide. I mean, you can send all of your cases, you can send none of your cases, you can send half of your cases. It's really going to be up to the commission. The contract does not require you to do anything. It just tells you that if you want to refer a case to us, this is how the process works.
Well, permits a
Right.
change as opposed to mandate.
It's an option for you. Right. Right. So I don't see any downside to signing the agreement because it doesn't impose any obligation on you other than if you want to refer cases to us, this is the process we want you to work under, and this is the reimbursement rate we're going to provide.
So if we continue to investigate employment complaints, would we still cross-file with you? And if so, how would we be reimbursed? In what amount?
It would depend. If you look at the chart on the page 4, it depends on the timing of when it's referred to us. That's the breakdown of the reimbursement rate. So if it's, for instance, it's older than 600 days, we aren't going to provide you any reimbursement. We don't get any reimbursement from the EOC for cases that are over 600 days old. If you send it to us at that 180-day point or over 180 days, then it'll be a $75 reimbursement. So it's really going to depend on the timing.
So if we have a case that we take in, do the intake, start the fact-finding process from the start, we really, don't know where it's going to end up, but then we get partway through, we get the fact-finding completed, and then we determine this is going to be something more than we can handle. What would the process be then?
It would just be it'd be a referral to us.
So then, at that point, we would refer it.
And assuming you provided us a copy of the file or whatever the work that you had done, so that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, we could use that. Now, that doesn't mean that I would expect you to send us your work product, but if you provided us with whatever the parties had provided to you, that eases the burden on the parties to recreate the file for us.
So what are your thoughts, given that we have Amy Simpson as our staff person here, who has been for a long time doing intake for us as a commission. Now that we've been narrowed down to $15,000 budget amount from the city to cover her salary, how do you envision, from what you see, other cities of our size working to be able to maintain her, and to, if we decide we want to maintain a presence and having to do that, how do you see that working given that budget constraint?
I don't have an answer for you for that, because that's not an issue that we would have any authority or jurisdiction over.
Well, what we were told was that there are other cities our same size that are getting by with less funding.
Right.
So we
normally,
I've got an idea from the research I did for cities slightly bigger than us and somewhat smaller.
I think most cities that are in this size or smaller, they do not have a full-time Human Rights Commission employee. The Human Rights Commission, the intake is done either through the city attorney's office or it's done through their human resources office. It's an additional duty for someone else within city government.
But those aren't volunteer positions either.
Well, they can still have commissions. I mean, it depends on what your city ordinance says. But if your city ordinance provides for a commission, then you would still have a commission, even if, let's say, your city attorney was doing the intakes. And again,
Well, I mean, what I'm getting at is if we were to operate as a still existing commission and send everything to the city attorney, that's going to end up being a lot costlier
Yeah, a lot more expensive.
line item in the city's budget than operating the way we were or have been.
It's probably going to depend on the number of complaints that you get. If it stays the same, then that may be true. I don't know. I don't know anything about your city budgeting. I frankly don't want to know. But if your complaints, if more and more people are coming to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission directly, then you're going to have fewer complaints to handle. And my hope is, I'm not trying to undermine local commissions, contrary to some representations by individuals. What I want to do is make the Iowa Civil Rights Commission as effective law enforcement agency as I can to provide an option for all Iowans. That's what I want to do. It's always going to be up to the individual if they want to use a local commission. That's their choice. It's always been their choice. It's their choice if they want to go directly to the EEOC and bypass the Iowa Civil Rights Commission altogether. Again, that is completely up to them. I just want to make the option that they have already a really good option, and that's what we've been working on.
Okay, so what's the process if somebody they want to come and do a complaint or whatever? How's that process work where they come here, talk to Lionel, and all that? How does it work doing it with your level?
How do people file complaints with us? We have our complaint forms on our website, so people can download the complaint forms, or we have individuals who call us and say, will you mail me a complaint form? We do. We provide them with an information sheet that tells them how to fill it out, question by question. That's also on our website. We tell them that if they have any questions about how to fill out the complaint, to feel free to call us. We have trained individuals who take calls all day long and answer those types of questions. The complaint form itself, as you've seen, is pretty general. And so, and then once we get the complaint form, if there's something on the complaint form itself that we need to clarify or we think needs to be changed, we will call the complainant and ask them that and get their permission to make the change on the complaint form. Then we send the questionnaires out. And the questionnaires are generated based on the type of complaint involved.
So can you do this if somebody doesn't have a computer or have access
Absolutely.
to a computer?
We can mail them. Most of the complaints we get are handwritten, frankly. Well, 90% of them are handwritten, so that's not a problem. And questionnaire responses are handwritten.
So then you come to Mason City, or they have to go to Des Moines? How does that work?
They mail us the complaint form. We mail them back the questionnaire. If it goes to mediation or investigation, then we would come up here.
I guess the follow-up question to Sandy's question is, how do people know that? Because when I've called all of these places on the sheet and the staff, when we've talked with these folks, they don't have an awareness of any education coming from the Iowa Civil Rights Commission to educate people in the community to know how or where to make the calls and how and where to go.
Well, we do a lot of education.
Why are those communities not aware of
I don't know.
the education efforts that Iowa
That's disappointing because we have it available on our website. We have, like I said, we have trained staff who answers the phone 4:30 Monday through Friday.
But I guess my question is, how would a person that just moved to Mason City 3 months ago and they have an employment issue, how would they have any clue as to where to go?
I assume they would Google civil rights and then we would come up. They're more likely to find the Iowa Civil Rights Commission than probably Mason City.
You mentioned 6 communities that have signed the agreement.
Yep.
Are any of those communities on the schedule?
No. Well, actually, Fort Dodge is. They have and Cedar Falls. They both have signed work share agreements. We do advertise in the papers, especially in minority papers. We do. We have our website. We try to go to as many events as we can. We were at the LGBTQ conference yesterday. I try to accept as many speaking invitations as I possibly can. And I try to meet with as many local commissions as invite me to meet with them. And try to be available to directors who have an interest in contacting me and having a conversation. I appreciate that there's some new directors out there, and I just hope that in the future, if you have any questions, you'll contact me directly, because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. I know there are individuals who represent themselves as having knowledge about civil rights commission who do not.
Thank you for making that comment.
Yeah, I would prefer you to contact me directly.
So that I can be perfectly clear before we lose you around this table. The City Council has compared our situation with Fort Dodge. They've used the Fort Dodge Human Rights Commission as kind of a benchmark for how Mason City might operate with the same budgeted amount, although I see Bettendorf is the one that reported to us that their annual budget by the city is the same as what we're going to be living with next fiscal year. So I guess could you tell me how, let's use the Bettendorf since they've got the same budgeted amount from the city. What is your relationship with them, and what does that look like in Bettendorf?
They have not signed an agreement, so they must handle all of their cases individually with their own commission. I mean, if they're not referring cases to us, that would lead me to believe that any complaints that they receive are being handled by their local commission.
Yeah, because what they told us was the city attorneys during their intake, and that they're only doing less than 10 cases a year and sending them to you. So it indicated to me that they weren't really doing much.
Again, it's going to be up to the individual commission. You can do whatever you want to do.
So they're doing less than 10 a year?
They're doing less than 10 a year, which, is $1,500 per case from the city budget going.
Well, and let me just,
$1,500.
no, if they refer to us, we can.
But they said they referred them to civil rights commission is what they told us for that.
So if they referred it to us, then we process them like we would any other complaint. We only budget $35,000 a year to award in local work share agreements because we don't get funding from the state to provide to local commissions, and $35,000 is about the most that we have in our budget to support local work share agreements. So we've never, as I understand it, they've never gotten close to that amount in terms of claims from local commissions. But if, for instance, we did have, let's say we had a surge in local complaint referrals, we would have, we would give out the money first come, first serve, and then, once we got past the $35,000, then we would not be able to provide reimbursement. But we've never, I think $20,000 is about the most that claims have been made by local commissions. I don't know why local commissions wouldn't sign the agreement and get the money. I mean, if they don't want to send us cases, they don't have to. The local agreement doesn't, require them to do that. But if they get complaints that they can't handle or they don't want to handle, they can get some money for that. So I don't know why you wouldn't. It's not a lot of money, but it's some, and they all have pretty small budgets, and so it might be enough to help them pay for an outreach event. So I don't know why they wouldn't do that.
I don't know if you're going to answer this or not. How many have we refused to do and sent them on to the state?
The only ones we send to the state are the ones outside of Sarasota County.
Okay.
And we do have a contract with the Civil Rights Commission. And when we draft a complaint, send it to them, they reimburse us for it.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to sign these agreements all the time.
So we sent 11 cases from Sarasota County. It says in the last.
No, we didn't send them. They picked
Those
us
are
up on
those are complaints that are filed by citizens in the county that come directly to us.
Okay.
So we get a fairly good number of complaints from the county anyway. With your commission of full time. And we receive over 1,700, 1,800 complaints a year. So most citizens figure out where we're at and how to get to it.
So is there a better benefit to do it the way it's going to be done now than what it was before? I mean, to have everybody just file for Des Moines and everything. Is that a benefit to Mason City?
Well, that's not something I can answer because that's something your local community is going to have to answer. What I can tell you is the Iowa Civil Rights Commission is much improved. And if you file a complaint with our commission, it's going to be timely processed and it's going to be competently processed. And it's going to be a fair hearing. That's what I can promise you. Mason City does, then it's probably going to be equitable.
Well, I visited with Professor Lovell here yesterday, and he's quite impressed by what you're doing and the changes you're making down there.
And I've worked with Professor Lovell. I go out to drink, and he's also on the legal redress committee for the NAACP, and I meet with them regularly, and they provided us suggestions and recommendations that we tried to incorporate. So we do have we have a good working relationship with, I get a lot of feedback from plaintiffs and respondents, attorneys in town.